I will get this guy's name correct. I asked Google. It's all good. Marios Duda.
The lead singer of Riverside is Marius Duda. The band members of
Marios Duda. Alright, I got this.
For another tide away.
Under the Fragmented Sky by Lunatic Soul. So, Lunatic Soul is kind of the side project from Marios Duda from Riverside. He is the main bass player and songwriter and singer of Riverside, and presented his side project of Lunatic Soul is much more of a melodic, much more of an intimate, much more of an experimental kind of a outfit. And this is the first time I really got to dive deep into a Lunatic Soul album. Follows very similar within the same rhythm sequences as Riverside, as well as the past Lunatic Soul. And in some respects, the thing that I really enjoy about Under the Fragmented Sky that I didn't really hear past is the use of the overlay of the vocal work. Like, this sounds very much like a Tom York or Radiohead, a la like Amnesia or Hail to the Thief, even like to a certain extent Moonshaped Pool, in that it's very strapped down and you're only really getting the bare essentials of this. But even with those bare essentials, you still have a lot of really fun things in the background that you really need to pay attention to. And as I said, what I really like is the interplay with the vocal works. And a lot of the actual music being presented is an overlay of like a sound recording of a vocalization that's then put into an auto-tuner. And instead of just being like an auto-tuned voice where it's like, meh, within a singing style, this is using it as an instrument, as like a keyboard or synthesized sound. When it's overdubbed on that way, you're getting a lot of the actual lyrics on this. And that's evident right from the beginning song, where it's just kind of like almost Queen-esque, where you have a call and response, but the call and response creates a full sequence of lyrics. The other thing that I really enjoy about this album is its length. And I know that's going to sound a little bit strange, but I have found with a lot of bands nowadays, they are shortening the albums up and making it a little bit tighter. And in this case, it really works. Because this album does kind of follow kind of within the same box, it provides a really great kind of a succinct meal in that sense. And I really enjoyed having to sit down, being in it for about 36 minutes, and then being able to move on to something else. Because if I were in this album for even just 10 minutes more, I could see myself being bored, just because there's not a whole lot of big changes within this album. They're really experimenting within the one box that they have, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot of extra groundwork that they're covering. Now, as I said, what I really enjoy about this album is not only the experimentation within the vocal works, because you can hear that in the first track of He Av En, which is kind of like heaven, but again, just that title work of He Av En, it's got that perfect kind of metaphor within how this song and other songs are going to be structured within the lyrics, and I've already kind of touched a little bit upon that. Trials I really like for that other aspect that I was talking about with this album, where there's a lot of like things in the background, even though everything is really strapped out. Like, there's this note sequence that really you have to kind of pay attention to, and it gets really creepy listening to this. And it was one of the few times I was getting creeped out from a song because of the background sounds that was permeating through that. And you don't notice it upon the first couple of listens. It isn't until you sit down and force yourself to really concentrate on some of the background sounds that are coming through that it really started to creep me out of like, there's another presence here that I didn't quite know it was here the entire time. And the songs do carry through quite well. Like, it complements each song. Sorrow being just a really nice guitar work, and then Under the Fragmented Sky, the title track. These two flow very well with each other. But Shadows is what I was talking about, even more so than Trials, of being really creepy. Like, it was almost as though Daft Punk decided to go goth and decided to go minimalistic. It was like, kind of take, for instance, if you had Edgar Allan Poe, you had Daft Punk, and you had Philip Glass. Those three entities at the same table trying to write a song, and you kind of have shadows. And that can also be said with the Arm of Repairing, the big almost 8-minute track on here, kind of the centerpiece. Like those three entities really shine through, and I would even add like Tom York and Stephen Wilson being the art directors of those three entities at the table. And Rising in the Night does feel like that really dark gothic Opeth moments within like the Candlelit era. Overall, this album was a treat. It took a while for me to get into, which doesn't surprise me just with the type of material that we found on this album. And yeah, it was an interesting time overall. With this type of an album, I have a very strange relationship with, because I'll listen to it when I'm in the right mood, but when I'm not in the right mood and I kind of have to like force myself to listen to it, it is a little bit of a drag, and that's just that type of music that we have within this. Overall though, while I was in this album, I had a good time. So I'd probably say download this album. It's still a really good treat. It's a great kind of a new release from a Riverside candidate, because it does feel very Riverside-y. So that's about it for Under the Fragmented Sky. What did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How does it compare to their past works? As I said at the beginning, I'm not as familiar with their past works. I think I've only really listened to Walking on a Flashlight's Beam. So how does it compare to their past works? Again, let me know of that by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.